Hello YouTube, this is Marcus or Garwin again with another video. Today's video we're going to be talking about Call of Duty World War II, the open beta. For those of you who may not have noticed, the open beta for the game is currently available on Steam if you are playing on PC. You do not have to pre-order the game, you do not have to pay anything in order to take advantage of this. You just have to look up the Call of Duty World War II open beta, install it, and start playing. Now this is not going to be a review, this is just going to be sort of my little first impressions and notes about the open beta experience. This is a beta product. It is meant for testing and community review. Most of the assets and systems within the game are probably going to undergo at least some changes before the final release version of the game. There's a lot of stuff missing. You know, you can only play certain game types. There's no campaign in the beta. And so don't take this as a final review of Call of Duty World War II. This is just my first impressions and some notes on some things that I would like Activision to look at and maybe fix before the game is actually released. So I've got some notes here. First we'll go over the good things. The graphics are decent. They are improved over the older Call of Duty titles. The gameplay feels pretty fluid with a mouse and keyboard. I am somebody who is not that good at first-person shooters on the PC platform, and up until this year I was predominantly a console gamer. Most recently I played on the PlayStation 4. I played Call of Duty Black Ops 3 there. Was the last Call of Duty game I actually played because it came with the PlayStation 4. Before that I played Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare with friends pretty regularly on the PlayStation 3. And we played Call of Duty Black Ops, and other than that, I haven't really historically been a Call of Duty person. So this is going to be an interesting experience if it turns out to be good enough to warrant me buying it, to have like my first full-blown new Call of Duty game on the PC platform. It's nice to be back in World War II. My next point is I didn't really have a problem with some of the space age type stuff personally. I actually quite liked the campaign for Call of Duty Black Ops 3, but culturally speaking it seemed like most people really were not a fan of Call of Duty turning into essentially Halo or Killzone, where you were, you know, wall jumping and jet packs and flying around in outer space and all that kind of stuff, you know. And maybe it's because I haven't really been a huge Call of Duty person in the past, so I don't have any preconceived sort of expectations regarding what a Call of Duty game should be, other than a fast-paced arcade-style shooter with relatively small maps. You know, it seemed like most people wanted them to stick to the real-world conflicts, and they really became sort of unhappy with the direction Call of Duty was going. And so it is kind of neat and refreshing, I guess, even though I didn't really have any big issues with the space age stuff. It is kind of neat to see them going back to their roots and having a good quality, or trying to have a quality World War II experience. My one gripe with it is that, at least in this open beta, they have replaced all of the swastikas with the Iron Cross, I believe it is. And I don't know who in the world they're scared of offending by, you know, killing Nazis, but you know, I heard rumors about them trying to be all politically correct and everything, and the rumors appear to be true because they have replaced the swastikas with Iron Crosses. Now, whether that changes in the final release of the game in the United States, we shall see. The next point is, with a few exceptions, the game feels fairly balanced. Most of the time, if I got the drop on somebody and I was accurate, I won the gunfight, and vice versa. If someone got the drop on me and they were accurate, I usually lost the gunfight. I didn't really feel like, for the most part, there was any gimme item or equipment or weapon that really gave one person in the match an unfair advantage, with the exception of the incendiary rounds and the 12-gauge shotgun. Like with previous Call of Duty games, you can either build your own custom classes, or you can pick from a list of the default classes with some default equipment equipped. And The default shotgun class allows you to swap in incendiary rounds, which continue to do damage over time. And more than once, a single person dominated a server with that round, or with that weapon. Because basically what happens is you get hit in the face with a 12 gauge shotgun, and then they can run off and leave you, and you continue to take damage over time for a few seconds from those incendiary rounds. And I died more than once from the damage over time effect, and not from an actual direct shot from that player. So that, but other than that, other than the incendiary 12 gauge rounds, the game did feel pretty, reasonably balanced. So, and my final good point is that the game was fun. For the most part, I've enjoyed myself. The game, it's cool to have a new Call of Duty game on my new gaming platform, and I've had a good time so far. So now let's get into the bad points. The first thing is that I use MSI Afterburner primarily for a custom fan curve, because the default fan curve on my graphics card lets it get up to like 80 degrees Celsius before it ramps up to 100%. And I use MSI Afterburner to keep it well under 70 Celsius, and even 60 in most cases. But even if you disable Riva Tuner altogether, something about MSI Afterburner caused the game to crash on me repeatedly. I'd play for 5, maybe 10 minutes, and then the game would just crash with an out of memory error, and I would have a dialogue from Windows itself saying I was out of memory. Even though I've got an 8GB graphics card and 16GB of system RAM, and according to the Riva Tuner overlay, when the game crashed, I still had plenty of RAM left over. There was one instance where I was recording when the game crashed and gave me that error, so I was able to actually go back and look at the last frame of video that was recorded and see that I still had plenty of memory left over when the game crashed. So it's something that game does not like about MSI Afterburner. Hopefully they fix that before release, because there are quite a few people who use Afterburner both for custom fan curves and for the integrated Riva Tuner support to show, frame rate, memory usage, CPU usage, things of that nature. Some controls were not mapped as I think they should have been by default. That's not really something that's a big issue, but it's just something I thought I would point out. I did have to actually add or remap my grenade key. You can add more than one key for specific commands, but by default, the only thing mapped to your grenade is the G key, which means that if you need to like cook off a grenade and sidestep and then throw it while you're out from behind cover and then sidestep back in really quick, it's kind of hard to do all that at one time with one hand, so I remapped it so that my grenade could also be thrown by my middle click. So just play a round or two, and you'll probably have to customize your controls, your sensitivity, and things of that nature a little bit. So I just thought I would point that out. Now these next 3 points, I'll go ahead and I'll read these all at once because they all sort of interrelate. Uses a lot of system resources. Graphics are not as good as they should be for the amount of resources it uses, and the frame rate is not anywhere near what it should be on my hardware. I looked before I realized Afterburner was making the game crash, and I had the Riva Tuner overlay up to monitor what was going on. And at one point I saw that it was using like 7 gigabytes of video card RAM and like 10 gigabytes of system RAM. It was using like 5 or 6 gigabytes of system RAM in the menu, and just ridiculous amount of RAM in use at one time. I played Battlefield 1 at 1080p on ultra settings, everything maxed out. The game holds over 60 frames per second, and it uses about 3.5 gigabytes of graphics card RAM and 9 to 10 gigabytes of system RAM if I'm playing a conquest map or match where it's huge maps with destructible environments, gorgeous graphics, 64 people all playing on one server, vehicles, airplanes, all this stuff, and that's what Battlefield 1 uses. Call of Duty was using more graphics card and system RAM than Battlefield 1. and it doesn't have, the graphics aren't as good, it doesn't have destructible environments, there's not nearly as many people on a server at one time. So I don't know what in the world was using up all that memory, but yeah. And on top of that, like I said, the graphics aren't as good for that much memory to be in use, and the frame rate was not consistent. You know, I would expect a Call of Duty game to, on my hardware, to never budge from 60 frames per second with VSync turned on. And I don't know that it did, because I had to turn off Afterburner to keep the game from crashing. But there were times that it felt like either they've got motion blur turned on, or it was not holding 60 frames per second, because it just didn't feel like 60 frames. So, I mean, the game wasn't unplayable, but it's Call of Duty. The engine is pretty much the exact same as previous Call of Duty games. And like I said, there's games that are much more, I guess I should say, better. Well, Battlefield 1, like I said, better graphics, larger maps, more people, destructible environments. You know, everything about it is bigger and better and more detailed, and it uses less system resources than Call of Duty World War II. So that really just comes down to optimization, and that is something that they'll probably spend quite a bit of time, hopefully, taking care of between now and the release date. And that's part of the purpose of a beta, for them to see you know where things need to be improved and worked on. At one point, my next point here, I randomly lost the use of my mouse. I was playing the game, and when the map loaded, or when the match loaded, I didn't have a mouse pointer. I couldn't click on anything in the menus. And when I went ahead and just used the enter key to pick my class, thinking, well, maybe it's a quirk, I could run around and I could look around with the mouse, but I couldn't shoot and I couldn't ADS. And so, just some random weird issue. And I was playing in full screen, so who knows. And this last bad point could end up being a big problem if they don't tackle it and take care of it right now. Hackers have already exploited the beta. It is similar enough in nature, in its underlying architecture and the engine that it uses, that apparently hackers have just had a field day using hacks from older Call of Duty games. I actually captured, there was one that actually made the kill cam in a match I played. Check this out.
We lost good men today. Learn from this failure.
So yeah, people have already started exploiting Call of Duty World War II, and if that is something that I can expect in the final product, I'm not going to pay for the game. So it's something that they really need to get on top of if they're going to sell this game, at least on the PC platform. But now I have to be honest with you, in my experience, at least so far, I've had more bad experience with hackers in Call of Duty games on the consoles than I have on the PC platform. So if this is what's happening on the PC already in the beta, I hate to see what the final product is going to be like if they don't get on this. So, in summary, my verdict: I am cautiously optimistic. I'm not going to pre-order the game, because if these issues that I have pointed out under the bad points section are not resolved, then this is not a game that I would want to pay $60 for. However, for the most part, I have enjoyed myself, and if they manage to fix these problems in the final product, then I will probably pay for the game and play the game, because it's been pretty fun so far, the issues notwithstanding. If they could improve the optimization for the PC version of the game, if they could do something to curtail the hackers that are already starting to have a field day, then, you know, cool, I'll probably pay for the game. However, right now in this state, the issues exist, which tells me, and so I know they exist now, so I'm not going to pre-order because I don't want to pre-order something and then have the issue still be there in the final product. I'll wait till the game's out. I'll go read articles, I'll watch reviews, and I'll see if the issues have been fixed, because I know that especially the issues with performance are not just me. I was reading comments from people on Facebook posts, guys running 1080s and 1080 Ti's, much better hardware than me. They're having the same sorts of issues that I'm having. And I'm using an 8GB RX 480 that's overclocked to a little over 1300 megahertz, which is not like a top of the line card, but it should be able to play Call of Duty at 1080p and not drop below 60 frames per second. And when I had the Riva Tuner overlay on my screen, my CPU usage was way down there, so it's not a CPU bottleneck. It's a lack of optimization. And so hopefully they can take care of that and the issue of the hackers by the time the game is released. So anyway, those are the good and the bad. My first impressions of Call of Duty World War II open beta. Like I said, if you're gaming on PC, it's supposed to be open until October the 2nd. I don't know if that means it's going to be open through October 2nd, or if it's going to be available until midnight the night of October the 1st. I don't know. But go check it out. See what you think about it, because the more people we have playing the beta version of a game, the more data the developer will get back, and therefore the faster they can actually fix issues. So I'm going to shut up now. I will let you guys finish watching the rest of this footage. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed my little take and my little video here. If you guys have any comments, questions, concerns, or suggestions, please feel free to post them in the comment section below. And as always, this is Garrowin out. Y'all have a good one.
Recon searching for targets. Recon airborne searching for targets. X-bomb mission underway. Fritz X-bomb mission underway.
Bunker!
Enemy recon aircraft in the air. We have fire superiority. Incoming enemy artillery. Get to cover. Enemy bomb incoming. Get to cover. Taking heavy casualties. We've lost fire superiority. Firing battery 1. Target standing by. Recon searching for targets. We have fire superiority.
Werfe eine Granate!
Fritz X-bomb ready. Dropping Fritz X-bomb. Recon flight concluded. You fought well under pressure. This victory will be remembered.